Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. Before we start the derivation, again I continue to point out that my rights are violated. The derivation work that is simply sitting on this channel in the From Rhythm to Algorithm section, which is a first principle derivation, satisfies the requirements for all of the Millennium problems. We've proven mathematical results way past mathematics. We've demonstrated the consistency of logic. We derived what physics is. It's an iteration of is, physics. And so you can see a tremendous amount of results previously, and continuing to not identify my work deprives me of the ability to have an income, to have the ability to pay my bills, to eat, and to sleep, and to have any sort of quality of life. My quality of life is truly zero. And so that is the forefront, is that my property is violated, and it's at a point where we've solved P versus NP, the Riemann hypothesis, mass gap, like word for word, verbatim, and we've encapsulated the entire logic. The Poincaré, that was already solved or claimable, and the Birch-Twin Swinnerton Dyer or something. I'm not even sure what that one was, but we've proven mathematical results tremendously past that, and not identifying and respecting my legal rights to my writings and discovery. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 of the United States Constitution has deprived me my reputation and my ability to have a job within academia, which previously I wanted, but at this point there's no chance I would ever give any sort of validation to a structure that's supposed to support education and is just demonstrably criminal. Everybody's lying in a fraudulent capacity, doing so in an organized unit is a racket, and so it 100% violates and satisfies the legal requirements of RICO, and so, but it's by the government. They've approached me in person. They've told me directly we can do basically whatever we want. They are arrogant. They are without any sort of jurisdiction or any sort of oversight, and they continue to deprive me of my rights. With that being said, back to the mathematics. So last episode I said linearity, again, has some sort of logical function. A lot of people will just say in some sort of argument that isn't progressing step by step, they'll say that's not linear. Then I said there's no other geometric kind of shapes, which isn't quite true, right? We have triangulation, right? Triality, but triangulate, right? Sensorality triangulates. To triangulate is to locate, to pinpoint, but obviously triangularity is built on angle. And that's another one of these mathematical concepts that we haven't really gotten to, but what is an angle? And so we can restate the fundamental theorem of geometry. A line cannot form an angle. And you can see in my previous episode, I caught myself. I said the complete geometric shape, the difference between any 2 points is a line. Right? 2 things to 1 thing. Logically, that's dichotomisticality. But you can't have a line that forms an angle, and you can't have an angle. Well, I don't want to make that step yet, but point being is I use the word closed. And so you can have an angle that isn't closed. And so, but overall, the most general theorem we can state about geometry, a line cannot form an angle. You might say, well, why does that make it the most comprehensive? And just one of those things, it just is. It is what it is. Nice. And so derivation demonstrates definition, right? We derive the definition of power, the velocity of energy, right? Joules per second is the unit. And logically, that's consistent. Proof is demonstrable. Demonstrable, demon. Sensorality is demonality. Demons are evil. So again, we're getting into like negative connotative things. Again, objectively bad words don't exist. But when we try to connotate negatively, like morally, or like that's like bad or wrong, demons are evil. I think, again, there's like some sort of like, we're finding again this closure of language where sensorality with a C is complete. stabilized, showing the completeness and connection with the actual letter. So it gives us the iteration for sensorality. And so I think that it might be I've conjectured and said, again, I literally have the example in speciality, but again, it's completely defined. Like there won't be a context. But before I said, music might be like the final context or something. But now I was kind of thinking, it's like the negatively connotated words, but it'll be generalized past any context. And again, like I said, it's a simple step. It will show the direct iteration. But the actual derivation, this process and analysis of language, won't stop whatsoever. Dichotomy is polar. All right. Mass is stabilized charge. So what is force? Again, these physical things, vibration stabilize into charge, charge stabilize into mass. That's what all things are. And so, all right, we can revisit force equals mass times acceleration. So mass is stabilized charge. Right, and then anytime you take like a drug and you get trippy and you see like the lights and the colors, and it's like you're just becoming aware of, again, the charge. Everything is charge. And so you have stability in the electron and in the dynamic of the proton with the bounded quarks. You never find them without a bounded or bounded group of three. And so what is force? Again, just posing the question. I mean, because nothing we do changes physics in the sense that we rederive the entire logical structure, which is well past, again, just historically what any one physicist has done. But again, language is consistent. And so we have force, mass, and acceleration are related, but again, we've demonstrated this irreducibility. And what is pressure, right? Force per unit area. We have this fundamental stability of 2. So that gives us a direct physical, mathematical, numerical reason that we need 2 components. And so we need to consider force as pressure to be logically and physically complete. And that's where, if you look at my paper, it says the complete pressure gradient, just meaning all of the things that are interacting. Nothing is touching, everything is connected. And so really, conceptualize mass, pressure, mass to pressure, and then what's the relationship of pressure and acceleration? And so trivial, but acceleration is proportional to pressure. I even labeled that the fundamental theorem of physics. It changed once again, but kind of a trivial restatement physically, because pressure is, mass or force per unit area, but the force is related to mass. But it just, with that added consideration of irreducibility, pressure is the right logical thing to use for completeness. And so acceleration is proportional to pressure, because pressure is proportional, or is force. Movement is position change. Position is situational. Situation, sensation. Sensorality is situationality. Sensorality is confinementality, right? We've derived, fine is a form of finite, a form of finity, and so is confined. And right, containment is confined. Containment's another one of those big words, container. It's like that's super fundamental, and that's been like passed along through history. But container is confined. Confinement is containment. Sensorality is individualisticality. Sensorality is realisticality. Just trivial extensions with more of those istics in there. Ancillarity is derivative. Memory stores. So now, again, we've shown you these different words where ality, the generalizing suffix, kind of like naturally goes in between words to complete them without changing them logically. And a big one, memory, right? Memorality is proportional to humorality. So if we extend out memory, we rederive morality. And then remember, way back when, don't forget, again, like 200 episodes ago, those results are still valid and relevant. And so we derived humorality, which was a big step. Once you see it, it looks trivial, but right, humor and memory are related, and they are, right? You remember things that are funny. And so logically and linguistically, we've shown that they are just, again, different consonants physically represented by different prefix. Yeah, Humorality, memorality. And again, it's just two, right? 2 letters. That's a pretty cool result. Nice. Memorality is memorable. And remember, that was the one that I like butchered trying to pronounce. It was like memorable. But memorable. And so sensorality is memorality, right? And then we kind of see from memorable, able, right? What is ability to morality, right? Well, guess what it is? Sensorality is the ability to be moral. And again, directly, literally, moral, right? More or less. And so morality, what is morality? Morality differentiates right from wrong, consistent from inconsistent, but it's objectively good. And so that is what we have for today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.